are we not? So as a result, it's up to passengers to keep that 2-metre rule for themselves. It's up to you, as the Mayor of London, to keep those people who are key workers safe, and that involves keeping the front door closed. My question again is, why didn't we see that to start with?
We're trying many things. We're trying those doors this week. It may not work, by the way. I don't want to give the impression that all the buses across London will have just the one door being used. We're trying some routes this week with just the back door being used. It could be the advice from the bus drivers and others is worth reverting back to front door on, back door off. So I don't want to pretend all our buses, we've got 9,000, will have just the back door being used. Not the case.
Okay, so why? I mean, bus drivers and train drivers going to work, not knowing, whether the same fate is in front of them that we've seen at least a dozen of their colleagues face. 12 people having died so far. The ASLEV union has said that their drivers don't have appropriate PPE. Why not?
Well, this is personal to me. My dad is a bus driver, and I spend a lot of time with transport workers, including the trade unions, to do a good job. In relation to personal protective equipment, we've been getting advice and chasing the advice and re-getting the advice from not just Public Health England, but the Department for Transport, the Department for Health, and the World Health Organization. And their advice is quite clear. Only people who are in care situations should be using personal protective equipment. So what we've been doing is making sure that we do all the other things we need to do to make sure our public transport is as safe as it can be. So, for example, we're using British Transport Police, the Met Police and others to make sure people keep their distance. We're making sure there are markers on platforms, 2 meters, showing people where 2 meters are. We're making sure that we, notwithstanding the large numbers of staff absences, running the maximum number of tubes and buses that we can. 55% of our tubes are still running during rush hour, and almost 90% of our buses. We're continuing to make sure public transport is there for those that need it, essential, critical workers. My advice to anybody else is please, please, please don't use public transport. Leave it for those who are essential during an hour of need.
So why are your workers dying?
Well, that's a bit unfair, Kate. We've had 14 people who've lost their lives tragically in public transport in London. We've had lots of people losing their lives in London. I'm afraid the bad news is we have more than 1,700 deaths in our city. It's tragic for those families who are grieving and who are bereaving. We'll have to wait and see what the contact tracing leads to in relation to the causes of them catching COVID-19. One of my frustrations for some time has been not just the lack of testing. Unlike other countries, weren't contact tracing, so we're not sure how people catch COVID-19. What I am sure about is unless we keep our social distance, this virus will spread faster and more people will die, which is why it's really important, even though the weather may be good this weekend, everyone stays at home unless you've got a very, very good reason to get food, to get medicines, exercise once a day, or if you really have to go to work, stay at home.
Well, it's incorrect to say we don't know how people get it. They get it from other infected humans. That's how they get it. And to that end, we believe that the government had said we'd need you to run more tube lines and more tube trains so that people can stay separate more easily. Apparently, yesterday, one commuter saying in a tweet that more than 100 people were on the platform at Leytonstone because you're running only 55% of the tubes. Why is that?
Well, let me explain why that is. It's really important your viewers understand how hard our transport workers are working. We've got about a third of our frontline transport workers off because either they are self-isolating because a member of their family has the symptoms and they can't get the test, so they have to stay home for 2 weeks, or they themselves have got COVID-19 symptoms. We're running the maximum amount of tubes we can run safely and the maximum amount of buses, trams and overground we can run safely. We are aware there are 3 lines, Victoria, Central and Jubilee, where there does appear to be pinch points, particularly at the eastern end of Central Line and Victoria Line and Jubilee Line. One of the reasons is because of construction workers using the east end of the line to come on the lines to go to construction work. I've been